Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 of the hip dysplasia tutorials. I just wanted to thank all of you that are following me on these tutorials with me and Sunshine, and it's really great to hear from all of you. Thank you for all your comments, and it's really motivating for me just to hear about how well all your pets are doing and the results that you're all seeing. So please post in the comment section if you're watching this video. Just say hi, here I am, this is where I'm from. Let me know about your pets. Let me know how you're getting on with the exercises. It's really, really great for me just to hear how everyone's doing, and also to answer any questions that you have. So if you have questions, please just put them in the comments box, and I will answer them at the next tutorial. So I've got a new lot of people that are actually going through my 12-week strengthening program, and one of the comments I just wanted to share with you guys, because a lot of you guys that are following the program now with the hip dysplasia tutorials, you're getting a lot of the same exercises that they're following, and it's really just great to see the improvements. So this is one of the comments on the platinum group for our academy. Thank you. A couple of interesting things have happened today. Twice Oscar has cocked his leg when having a pee on his walk, and he hasn't done this for several months now. He also seems to be scraping his left hind less, and I wasn't expecting to see any significant changes for a while. And so it's really, really, really awesome. When you do these exercises and you make these changes in your pet's environment, just really, really small things. This dog has been on the course, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks, and the owners are really starting to see significant changes, which is really, really awesome. So if you guys are watching these videos and you're thinking, oh, should I do these? Shouldn't I do it? And often pet owners will really think that their dog's getting old now. This is sort of part of them getting old. They've got hip dysplasia, they've got arthritis, and it's just one of those things. You can make a major, major difference to your pet's quality of life. So please just give it a try, give the exercise a try, listen to what I'm sharing with you, and especially there are loads of things, just environmental things, changes you can make to your household that can help your pets. And we're going to get into all of these a little bit later in the tutorials. So let's have a look that's just to remind you guys that we're here every Wednesday up until the 11th of April. So let's have a little recap what we talked about in tutorial 3. We discussed acupuncture, we talked about gold bead implants, and we went over a clinical study that was done, just how they had really great improvements in pain and mobility on the pets that had hip dysplasia that had these gold bead implants. We talked about magnetic therapy. I gave you a basic massage routine to do for the back, and the exercises we chatted about were the weight shoves exercise and the side bends exercise. So a lot of people have been struggling a little bit with the side bends exercise. If your pet is really struggling to go all the way around to the hip, you can actually just start at the shoulder and then progress eventually till they can bend round to the hip. So dogs that are very stiff, especially in their back, might not have the mobility to be able to bend round. So that was one of the questions that we had from last week's tutorial. So if you are now coming on and you're seeing tutorial 4 and you haven't seen 1, 2, or 3, just scroll down, and there is also a link there where you can sign up to get notifications when the tutorials are going to be, and you'll also get a YouTube link of the recording if you do miss it. I know not all of you can make it at 12:30 online. So the first 4 is what we chatted about last week. So this week I want to concentrate on acupressure. I want to talk about biopuncture, and then about omegas. So specifically mainly omega-3, which is one of the things that often get added into joint diets. And we'll chat a little bit about omega-6 and the ratio that we should have between omega-3 and 6. And then we're going to talk about a product called Caprex. This is a product that I have used in many of my patients and I've seen great results. So I just wanted to share it with you. I'm going to show you a video of a dog that's been on Caprex and off Caprex and just see the results. So acupressure, now I have a whole acupressure ebook, which you can download if you're an Academy member. So if you go to drmegankelly.com, you can find out all the information there about joining the Academy. My Academy members have access to all my online courses. They have access to the acupressure ebooks, natural ways to manage pain in pets, our osteoarthritis ebook, the massage course, as well as the 12-week strengthening program, which is some of the exercises that you've been giving, but also some more. So there are about 24 or so exercises there. So you can go and have a look at drmegankelly.com. But today I'm going to actually show you the technique, and I'm going to show you the points specifically for hips. In the acupressure ebook, there are loads of other points which are for all different areas. So if your dog's got arthritis in its back and its neck and its knee, I'll show you all the different points for that. But today I'm going to give you the points for the hips so you can have a look at those. So what you're going to do, you basically, instead of putting a needle into an acupuncture point, you're going to be using your tip of your finger as pressure. And what's really important is that you just use whatever finger is the most comfortable for you. So you could use your thumb, you could use your index finger. You don't want to bend your digits. You actually want to try and have a straight finger as much as possible, because if your finger is actually straight, then you have a lot more control over the pressure that you're going to exert. So you're basically going to find the acupuncture point. You'll place your finger as parallel to the skin as possible, as perpendicular, not parallel, perpendicular to the skin as possible. And you're going to put steady pressure on. And you basically apply light pressure and you slowly increase that until you feel some resistance from the animal or the muscle. You'll feel that the tissue under you becomes a little bit tense. They might tense up. And this is something that you're going to learn over time. So you'll get used to how it actually feels. In South Africa here, I have acupressure workshops that I do, so it's a lot easier to be able to explain. But the more you do this, the more you'll see that your dog reacts, or you can feel a little bit of tension in the tissue below. And then what you're going to do is, once you feel that tension, you're going to just back off a little bit. So you're going to release the tension a little bit, your pressure a bit more, and then you hold that point for 5 seconds, and we call that the holding point. Right. So these are the points for the hip. Now, it's very difficult to actually know exactly where the points are. And I can remember even when I started doing acupuncture, and I did a whole veterinary acupuncture course, and I remember thinking, wow, like, to try and remember exactly where these points are. So the closer you to the point, the better, but you don't have to be specifically on the exact small little acupuncture points. They found that these acupuncture points actually have quite a wide area where you can do acupuncture or acupressure on. So these are the points. Now, they're all different meridians on the body, and these points are points which I would use in a pet that had sore hips. You'll see that there are ones on the back. That one's called bladder 23, and that one's called governing vessel 14. These ones, because we know that pets that have sore hips often have compensatory back pain. So we're going to be treating other areas of the body. And so you have sort of local points, you have distal points. There's a lot more information about it in the acupressure ebook, and if you attend one of my workshops, we'll be able to go into a lot more theory, but for now, this is really all you need to know. So this is something that you can do with your pets, and if you're going to do acupressure, you can do it once or twice a week. You could do it daily if you wanted, but I must say that I have found from my owners that doing it twice a week, they tend to see the results. And we'll often use acupressure in between having acupuncture treatments. So some pets respond a lot better to acupressure than they do to acupuncture. Some don't tolerate the needles as well. So, really when we're looking at all these types of pain management, we're really just finding whatever is the best for our pet. So there's no recipe here. Really, you try all these different things, see how they respond, and then do the things that are actually working for your pet. So biopuncture, these are some products that I use in my clinic. They're made by a company called Heal. So one of them is Traumeal, another one is Zeal. And there are a whole lot of other ones, but these are the main ones that I would use for pets that are suffering from hip dysplasia. And they're actually not homeopathic medicines, because in homeopathic, you can't actually measure any particle size. This is what we call anti-homotoxic medicines, and they're actually particle sizes, and it is usually plant-based things. So if you look at the back of the medication, you'll recognize certain things, like for example in Chormeal we have arnica. So there are lots of different ingredients in these medications, but they are widely used in the human field, and are starting to be more used in the animal field. And interestingly, they actually did a clinical study in dogs that were suffering from osteoarthritis. And in the study, they looked over a period of about 56 days, and they compared Zeal to a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So these are like the anti-inflammatories that we would prescribe for pets, and they used a specific one, and they looked at the effectiveness, the lameness, the stiffness of their movements, how painful they were in palpation, and they did an evaluation through the vet, as well as the owner. And the interesting results were, after these 56 days, that the results were actually comparable. So the results from the pets that were on Zeal in comparison to the ones that were on the anti-inflammatory were pretty much the same. So the only thing that they did find was that three of the dogs that were on the anti-inflammatory showed some serious side effects, adverse side effects. And we know these anti-inflammatories, that they can cause gastric ulceration, they decrease the blood supply to the kidneys. So, you remember from our tutorial last week when I was speaking about, we showed you that triangle and we were speaking about all the different things that we can do. So these are kind of products that we can use before we go on to anti-inflammatories. And it's great to see studies like this where we can actually see that they are as effective as anti-inflammatories without the side effects. So please, if you want to start your pet on any medication, so any of the medications or supplements or anything that I'm talking about in these tutorials, I ask you please to speak to your vet before changing any medications or adding in any supplements. It's really important that your vet, that you have a conversation with your vet about it and get your vet on board with whatever changes that you're going to make if you decide to try one of these products. So turmeric, I really like turmeric. There's lots of different opinions as to whether it works or not. There are lots of studies that are done, and there were studies that actually proved that turmeric did work, but then what they said is that it wasn't actually a blinded study because the dogs actually smelt of turmeric. So the people that were doing the study, they actually knew that the dogs had turmeric, and so they may have had a biased opinion. So there are lots of different theories, but turmeric has been known for years and years and years to have anti-inflammatory, antioxidant properties, and I use it on my pets. One of the problems with it is it's not very soluble, so that means that it doesn't dissolve easily in water, and it also doesn't absorb very well. Like the pets aren't able to absorb it well. And one of the things they found is if you actually add black pepper to the turmeric paste, so it should have that in the recipe, that it increases the bioavailability, so the ability for the pet to be able to absorb the turmeric. They're different recipes. You can see them online. They usually have coconut oil with them. And I must say that I see great results with turmeric. Not all of my cases, but a lot of my pet owners will say that they really, really see an improvement giving their pets turmeric. So one of the things that I always used to do is use organic turmeric, and a recent study has just been published where they took about 8 different types of turmeric powders. 6 of them were organic and 2 were not organic. And amazingly, in the organic ones, they actually found high levels of arsenic and mercury. And the reason we usually want the organic is because we don't want to have any signs of pesticides that are in the turmeric powder. But the studies actually found that even if it was organic or not organic, there was no pesticides found. And interestingly, the non-organic ones actually had no signs of mercury or arsenic in them. So that I found really, really interesting. So I'm not so sort of phased about having the organic turmeric. So if the recipe says organic turmeric, whether you do organic or non-organic, obviously depends on the brand that you're using. But looking at that study, it seems like either one will be fine. So one of the things that we sometimes use in pets that have got arthritis or hip dysplasia is to put them on a specific joint diet. And now these joint diets often have different types of things like chondroitin, glucosamine, which are all joint supplements. But usually the major thing that they have added to them is omega-3. And omega-3 is actually an anti-inflammatory. And these joint diets have very high levels of omega-3, and these anti-inflammatory properties really, really help these pets. Now, there are different types of fatty acids. So there's omega-3 and omega-6. And omega-6 is actually pro-inflammatory, and omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. And it's really important that we have a balance because inflammation is actually needed for the body to be able to function, for the immune system. And so if we have a balance of omega-3 and 6, and we usually say the ratio between 3 and 6 should be 1 and 3. So if we have this balance, then our body will be able to perform its functions optimally. So it's really important that we create this balance. And the thing about omega-3s is omega-3 is a very unstable fatty acid, whereas omega-6 is very stable. So most people and pets are consuming and being exposed to more omega-6s than there are to omega-3s. Now in pets, so you have two options. So if you have your ratio is out and you have too many omega-6s, you can either decrease the amounts of omega-6 that you're taking to try and restore the balance, or you can supplement with the omega-3s. Now in pets, it's not so easy to decrease the omega-6s because it's in their food. And omega-6s you'll find in pelleted, especially in pelleted dog foods, because out of the fatty acids, it's the more stable one. The omega-3 tends to be unstable, and they manage to keep the omega-6. So we're really supplementing omega-3s can really benefit, especially pets that have a lot of inflammation, because it helps with decreasing the inflammation. And when we have a lot of omega-6, that means that we are sort of promoting inflammation in our body. So we need to get this ratio stable. If we look at the different sources, there are plant-based, there are fish oils, and then there's phytoplankton. So the problem with the plant-based omegas is that they have to be converted by dogs and cats first to be able to be used. And dogs and cats are not very good at that conversion. So about 20% of the omegas that are ingested that are plant-based will actually only be converted. So you need to have so much of a plant-based omega in order to be able to get the right dosage of omega that pet would need. Fish oils are generally a better source of omega, but we have problems with fish oils in that there are also high mercury counts that are being found in fish, and the higher up the food chain they are, the worse the amounts of mercury. So that's one thing to consider. And also, because omega-3 is so unstable, these fish oils go rancid quite quickly, and especially if they're exposed to oxygen and exposed to light. So if you feed your pet a fish oil that is gone rancid, basically your pet's body is just going to be using all its antioxidants just to try and decrease the exposure to that rancid fish oil, and you're not really going to get the benefit that you're wanting. So it's important to make sure that if you are feeding a fish oil, that it hasn't gone rancid. And it's actually quite easy to smell. So once you smell rancid fish oil, you'll remember it. It actually smells like rotten fish. So if there is it's quite a fresh, sort of nice fishy smell, and it doesn't smell bad, then that's probably the normal fish oil. If it smells really rotten and just you can smell this sort of really putrid type of smell, there's a good chance that fish oil has gone rancid, and you should not feed them to your pets. So a new movement now is to look at feeding actually phytoplankton And phytoplankton is like algae, and that's actually the source of where fish get their omegas. And so just actually supplementing with phytoplankton, you can be able to give them an omega source. So in South Africa here, we don't really have any pet products that are specifically made with phytoplankton, but I think around in Canada and the States, I think there are quite a lot of products where you can actually get phytoplankton for pets. So those are just different ways in which you could supplement with omega-3. I have written a blog on knowing your omegas, so if you want to check that out, you can go to drmegankenny.com. There's a lot more information there, and also some information about the dosage and how much you would be wanting to give your pet. So Caprix, this is a product, it's actually a dietary supplement, and I've also used this on my patients. It is a human medication, but there are a lot of vets that prescribe it, and a lot of holistic people that do treatments on pets that use this product. It basically has tetrace, rosemary, and oleic acid in, and it works very similar to a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories decrease prostaglandin synthesis, so they basically prevent the formation of prostaglandins, and prostaglandins are an enzyme that is an hormone that causes inflammation and causes sort of the start of the inflammatory cascade in the body. So by decreasing prostaglandins, we can decrease inflammation. So Caprix actually works in a similar way, but it doesn't actually completely prevent prostaglandin from being formed. It actually just prevents it from being formed in excess. And so in doing this, it decreases the side effects, and you don't have the side effects that you would have in a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So the reason that we get these side effects is that prostaglandin is actually needed for certain functions in the body. And one of the side effects of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories is that it causes gastric ulceration. So when you completely take away the prostaglandin, we end up getting ulcers in the stomach lining. So because Caprix just still allows the prostaglandin to be formed but doesn't completely eliminate it, it just decreases it, we don't have these side effects of any gastric ulceration. And in a clinical study that they actually did with Caprix, they actually found that it was a good treatment, so a treatment for gastric ulcers in people. So it's quite bitter, and it comes in a little capsule. If you break the capsule up, I haven't had one dog that has actually eaten it, and cats themselves also, they're not likely to eat it. So it is bitter, so it's best to give it as the whole capsule, and not break it up. Once they taste that bitter taste, they're unlikely to try it again. So the dosage, it would be about 1 to 10 kgs. You would do one capsule a day. 10 to 25 kgs, you can do one twice a day for 10 days and then go down to one a day. And then more than 25 kgs, you'll do 1 to 2 gel capsules twice daily for 10 days and then two a day. Now, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to give any supplements or change any of your pet's medications, please speak to your vet before doing so. It's very, very important that you make sure that there's no contraindications to changing your pet's medications. You never want to just suddenly stop something and change to something else without consulting your vet. So I want you to show you this video. This is actually a video from Whiplash Chiropractic in St. Georgia. So I'd just like to give them the video credit. I'm going to go back there quickly. Let's just see if we can start again. This is a little dog called Bailey, and Bailey was using Caprix, and you can see this is the first time that Bailey runs up the stairs when Bailey's actually on Caprix. And I wanted to show you guys, do you see that bunny hopping? Do you see those two legs going together? That's classic signs of hip osteoarthritis, and maybe Bailey was suffering from hip dysplasia with secondary arthritis. So the first one was Bailey on his Caprix. This is the first day him not on Caprix. You can see he's a lot slower, struggling a lot more, especially those last two steps. Now this is I think now 2 days without Caprix. So you can see the owner's calling Bailey. He's not wanting to go up the stairs at all. Now he slowly starts. You can see how sore he is. He's actually going up sideways because I think that left side is obviously so sore for him. Really, really, really struggling to go up the stairs. Looks like his right side is also sore. He's sore everywhere, but really struggling in comparison to the first time. So now this is after Bailey had 2 tablets in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. And you can see just in his eyes, he just looks so much happier. He's playing with the cat. And now his owners called him and up he goes, up the stairs. You can see how much better his movement is, wagging his tail, and just so much happier. So that's a really great alternative to non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and it's especially something that you could consider if your pet suffers from side effects of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So let's go on to week 4's exercises. This is called the assisted sit to stand exercise, and it's a stepping stone to the sit to stand exercise. What I wanted to explain to you, if you think about if you are sitting on a stool and it's a high stool and you need to stand up from that high stool, you don't often need to use your hands. You can actually just step up and just step onto your feet. It's really, really easy for you to get off the stool. In comparison, if you had to sit on a very low couch, so the lower the couch is, the harder it is for you to stand up. And most people actually start to use their hands, so push their hands on either side of themselves to push themselves up. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to raise from where they are having to stand up from. So by putting our knees underneath our pets' bottoms, it's a lot easier for them to stand up, and they're less likely to overuse their front legs to pull themselves up, and they're more likely to contract their muscles in their back legs and push themselves up. So if you see here, so basically he's sitting on the owner's legs, and you can see the handler how she's putting her hands on either side of the hips and giving a slight push and directing forwards upwards. Also those hands on either side of the hips are going to help to activate all those muscles in the hind legs. So this is what we call the assisted sit to stand. If you don't have somebody to help you with this exercise, you can always back your dog up onto a step, or you can put some big cushions that they can sit down onto just to help them just to get a little bit of height. But if you really look here, this dog is hardly using its front legs. It's mainly using its back legs to push up, and that's really what we want. Once your dog masters this, then we'll progress to the sit to stand exercise. And what you want to do is 5 repetitions, and you're going to do that twice a day, and you're going to do this three times a week. So if you remember, the first lot of exercises we did was the weight shift exercise. If your dog has mastered the weight shift exercise, if this exercise has now become easy for them, what we can do to make it a little bit trickier is to do this exercise on a piece of foam. Now, the thicker the foam is, the harder it is for them. So you start off with a very thin piece of foam. You can use maybe one of those cushions that you see often in outside furniture. And the more dense the foam is, the easier. And the softer the foam, the harder it is for the pet. So you basically make them stand on the foam, and you're going to do the weight shifting exercise, rocking them from side to side. And it just helps to challenge them a little bit more, make it harder for them to balance. If your dog, when you do the weight shifting exercise, tends to stick one of their legs out to the side, this is a good way to prevent them from doing that. So you put your both legs on either side around their hip. Your feet are positioned so that they're just on the outside of their feet, and this stops them from actually pushing their leg out to the side. And you can use your knees and your legs to rock them from side to side. The pressure of your legs is also helping with activating those muscles, and you can do this 20 times, twice daily for 3 times a week. Once you progress to weight shifts on foam, you can stop the normal weight shifting exercise. All right, so that's it for today's tutorial. Please put your comments below. Let me know how you enjoyed it, if you've got any questions. Next, we're going to learn about surgical options for pets with hip dysplasia, and we're going to just compare this to the conservative approach. I want to mention a few joint supplements. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but just some recommendations of products that I like to use. And then we're also going to go into the next week's exercise. So for those of you that don't have anything to do tonight, which is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day, everybody. We have a webinar on for pet owners. You can sign up at drmegankelly.com, and it's with Ben Blecker from Go Hero, and he's going to be talking to us about orthotics and prosthetics. So I'm really looking forward to that. So thanks everyone. Thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate it. And I love all the comments, and just I'm so happy that there's so many pets that I'm able to help by sharing this information. Have a wonderful day and happy Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.